Myfitnesspal is one of the most powerful tools for fat loss, but most people use it completely wrong. You start using it for a while, but it becomes tedious and it's not helping you get any leaner. You use it some days and forget others. It just becomes a frustrating cycle and you end up throwing it in the bin. I've been coaching nutrition and helping people use Myfitnesspal to get lean for nearly 10 years. And in that time, I've come up with a system that you can use to squeeze as much as possible out of this app. I'll show you how to turn Myfitnesspal into a tool that's accurate, efficient, and effective at helping you lose body fat. And I'll also share some unknown hacks, including how to get one of the premium features for free. Setting your calories correctly is the first vital step in using this app. If you get this wrong, no matter how accurately you track, you'll still struggle to lose fat. You might think that Myfitnesspal's calorie target is good enough, but here's why it's actually setting you up for failure. Most people put in their body stats and goals, and Myfitnesspal gives them a calorie target that's just not suitable for them. There's 3 reasons for this. First, most people set a rate of weight loss that is too fast. Unless you've successfully implemented a fat loss phase in the past, and you're very confident in your food knowledge and skills, it's better to shoot for a more reasonable level of weekly fat loss. Second, it's very easy to choose the wrong activity level. We live in a society where people move much less than they used to, and we tend to overestimate the amount of calories that we burn and underestimate the amount of calories that we consume. Later on in the video, I'll show you how to correct the underestimation of calories as well. Third, most people just take the calories that Myfitnesspal gives them and they never do any testing. So here's the solution. First, use the free Triage calorie calculator, which I'll link in the description, and read up a little bit about the differences in activity levels. You can then plug those recommendations into Myfitnesspal. Once you've done this, you can do a little bit of testing on those calories for a couple of weeks. Take note of any weight loss that occurs, but also how hungry you are throughout the day, what your energy levels are like, and how your training performance is affected as well. We recommend about 0.5% to 1% body weight loss per week total, as this gives you a little bit more wiggle room with your calories than a more aggressive deficit. If you're experiencing excessive hunger levels, this can be altered by changing the composition of the foods you eat, but it also comes down to how many calories you're eating on a daily basis, and this is where calorie levels that are too low become a problem. Training performance is also a key aspect of this, because if your calorie deficit is too aggressive, it's going to negatively impact your training, and there's no reason for this to happen, especially at the start of a fat loss phase. Now that you've got calories that you can test, we want to improve the accuracy of your tracking, because this is where most people fail and never get the results that they want from using Myfitnesspal. There's 6 big things we want to focus on to maximize the accuracy of your tracking. The first common accuracy issue that I see with my clients is they'll want to track something like a chicken sandwich, for example. They'll search chicken sandwich and 100 different options will come up. Then they'll choose one that's probably lower in calories than what they've consumed. Instead, when you're starting out, you should track the individual ingredients of the meals that you're having. By doing this, you get the exact nutritional information as well as the exact portion size that you're having. And this also brings me nicely to my first time saving tip. You'll see that Myfitnesspal allows you to save meals and recipes. I can't understate how crucial this is, because it makes using Myfitnesspal much less tedious. And this is one of the main reasons that people give up on it. You want to use this feature for your most common meals throughout the day. Examples here would be protein oats, smoothies and omelettes for breakfast, sandwiches and wraps for lunch, or curries, spaghetti bolognese and chili con carne for dinner. When you've got a good fat loss diet system going, you'll find that you gravitate towards similar meals. And by having these meals saved, it means you no longer have to track individual ingredients, and this massively improves your accuracy. The barcode scanner is one of Myfitnesspal's most useful functions, but unfortunately it's a premium only feature since they were bought out by Under Armour. Now, one of my greatest passions in life is finding ways to work around corporate greed so that the average Joe can save a few bob. And there's a few different methods you can try to get the full benefit of the barcode scanner without having to pay for the premium version. First, try setting your location to the UK, Ireland or Canada, as some of these locations don't put the barcode scanner behind a paywall. However, this has not worked for everybody, but it's still worth trying out. If you have an Android phone, you can try and download an older version of Myfitnesspal before 2022, when the barcode scanner was put behind the paywall. If that doesn't work, what I'd recommend is you get the free trial of premium for the first month, scan as many foods as you possibly can to build up a database, and then from there, it's much easier to just search for foods as you need them. When you combine this with the saving meals and recipes function from earlier, you'll build up a system within Myfitnesspal where you don't actually need to put new foods into it very often. And the truth is, the other premium features of Myfitnesspal are just not worth getting. Now, if the continued use of the barcode scanner is important to you, you can also try using a VPN and setting your location to somewhere like Turkey, for example, and you might be able to get a cheaper premium fee there. If none of those options sound attractive to you, there are also other apps such as Lose It which have a barcode scanner that you can use for free. The only issue is the user interface on some of those other apps generally aren't as polished as Myfitnesspal, and there's less of a database of foods that you can use as well. Next, I'm going to show you how to use a food scale properly to weigh the portions of your food. First, it's important to set your food scale and your Myfitnesspal serving sizes to grams. This just creates standardization and it increases the accuracy of your tracking. The main type of foods that you will need to weigh are proteins like chicken, beef, fish, and dairy products, carb sources like oats, pasta, rice, potatoes, and cereals, and fat sources like avocado, cooking oils, mayonnaise, and peanut butter. For carbs and proteins, I also recommend that you track them as uncooked because again, this creates standardization. Carbs like rice and oats will gain water when they're cooked, whereas proteins like chicken and beef tend to lose a bit of water when they're cooked. It's also important that you accurately track loose foods such as nuts, seeds, and dry fruits, and anything in a container. To accurately track from something like a pot of yogurt, put the pot on top of the scale, zero it out, and then remove your portion from the container. And this will help improve your accuracy from foods coming from a container. As you use the food scale, this is also a good opportunity for you to practice the skill of eyeballing your portions. This is important because it teaches you how to estimate the correct portion sizes of foods like chicken or rice or oats without actually having to use Myfitnesspal in the future. And you can make a little game of this where you cover the food scale before putting your portion in, making a guess, and then see how close you get. Over time, you'll get a really nice inherent sense of what 250 grams of potatoes, 60 grams of uncooked rice, or 150 grams of chicken looks like. Next, I want to show you how you can build accuracy through your tracking habits. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make here is they get to the end of their day and try and retroactively track pulling from memory. If you do this, you're going to miss calories and you won't be fully accurate. As I said earlier, we're very bad at estimating how many calories we consume, and this has even been tested on dietitians who are supposed to be the gold standard of nutrition professionals. One of the dietitians from this study was off by 800 calories, and this just goes to show how poor we are at this estimation. To overcome this, I recommend one of two methods. First, make a commitment to immediately track before or after any meal or snack that you have. The second method that some people find useful is tracking their full day of eating the night before. This takes a little bit more effort, but it provides a nice structure and removes a lot of the mental effort exerted the next day. One final note on improving your tracking behavior is that even if you can't track something accurately because you go out for a restaurant meal or you go to someone's house and they make you food, you should always try and put something in the app. We know from the habit formation research that even if you engage with a habit poorly, it helps to keep it going and eventually to make it stick. Now this brings up the age-old question: how do I track something that I didn't make, such as a restaurant meal, a takeaway, or a meal in somebody's house? Again, you won't be accurate with this, but even if you leave yourself with a 20% margin of error, you'll still be okay. But I have a few tricks for you to get you within striking distance of full accuracy. First, if it's a very basic meal like a sandwich or a wrap, you can again track the individual ingredients, and if you've been practicing the eyeballing of your foods, you'll probably get pretty close. If it's a restaurant or a takeaway, you can use the American food chains like McDonald's for burgers, Chipotle for burritos, Panda Express for Asian food, and Olive Garden for Italian. You can also use supermarket ready meals to emulate the meal out. Let's say you go to an Indian restaurant and you get a chicken tikka masala. You can search or scan a Tesco ready meal tikka masala. As you know, the ready meals are usually a little bit smaller from a portion perspective, whereas a restaurant meal is usually a little bigger. And if you multiply the serving size by 1.5 to 2 times, this multiplication will correct that. This will all come together to give you a nice foundation of accuracy when tracking, but I also want to talk about some common mistakes that people encounter. The translation of the food you track to the food you absorb will never be 100% accurate because of those digestive inefficiencies, but also because companies are legally allowed to have a 20% margin of error rate. This means a nutrition label could say that a food is 100 calories, but in reality it could be 80 calories or 120 calories. Now with that being said, you can still get your accuracy up to around 90 to 95% by following the guidelines we've spoken about so far. Myfitnesspal is actually quite similar to something like Wikipedia because it has a lot of user-generated entries. Now, it's got a lot of good stuff on there, but because of these user-generated entries, there's a lot of mistakes, such as the calories being wrong or people just forgetting to put the protein in on a specific food. You can largely overcome these errors by choosing foods that have the green verification tick, or by searching foods with USDA in the search term. You can also improve the accuracy by scanning a barcode and then seeing if it matches up with the nutrition label on the back of your food. After tracking for a while, you'll start to get an intuitive sense of what looks right and what looks wrong on specific foods. For example, if you track turkey mince and it's very high in calories coming from an inflated fat macro, you'll know this is wrong because turkey mince is a very lean protein source. Sneaky calories are also a big red flag to watch out for because they can completely destroy your fat loss results. Liquid calories, oils, added sugars, condiments, mayonnaise, sauces, and snacks that aren't tracked can put you in a position where you're eating more than you actually think you are. When you're on a fat loss diet, I would completely avoid liquid calories altogether because they don't help with hunger management. Cooking oils and butter are generally the same, and I'll just use 1 calorie spray to overcome this. But if you wanted to use cooking oil or some butter to improve the flavor profile of a food, I would just use a small amount and track it like everything else. Condiments, mayonnaise, and sauces are also one to watch out for, but there are some pretty decent low-calorie alternatives out there too. You also have untracked snacks, but this can largely be overcome by being diligent with your tracking and also using mindful eating strategies that we've spoken about in other videos. Alcohol is another fat loss result killer, but not for the reasons that people think. Alcohol is actually a 4th macronutrient with 7 calories per gram. When we consume alcohol, it has to be metabolized first by our liver, and this can cause other nutrients such as dietary fat to be stored as body fat, provided that you're above maintenance calories. The key point here is that provided alcohol is tracked like any other food and you still end up in a calorie deficit at the end of the day, it won't impede your fat loss results. The next mistake that people make is tracking exercise calories within Myfitnesspal. I recommend that you just turn this feature off because it's inaccurate. But even if it was accurate, it tends to influence your eating behavior in a way that's not very helpful because people tend to eat back calories they burn from exercise. It's better to just separate your diet efforts and your exercise efforts completely as it relates to fat loss, because this will massively improve your outcomes, and it's also better for your long-term relationship with food as well. Another big mistake that I see is people not having an exit plan with all of this. What I mean here is you want to have an exit plan with both your fat loss phases and your use of Myfitnesspal tracking. Myfitnesspal can teach you a lot about food. It improves the flexibility of a fat loss diet because it allows you to include treats with some confidence, and it also improves the accountability that people experience from a fat loss diet. But it's not something that people should strive to be using for a lifetime. Rather, it's a diet tool you can dip in and out of for specific periods of time. It's important that you develop non-tracking skills, such as practicing eyeballing, like we mentioned earlier, consistent meal frequency, and a strong understanding of how to choose foods that not only get you results, but allow you to maintain those results long term. Now, if you want to take all of these tracking skills and turn them into a complete system that allows you to lose fat and keep it off, then I'd recommend checking out our fat loss masterclass up here.